Hi. Since we are working online, I am going to walk you through this first prep assignment, which is to create a basic violin graph in R. I do ask that you try it yourself first. What you'll find as you start using these data science programming tools is that it really makes it easier to go step by step on your own rather than to try to watch me or what I do on a video. But I want to make sure that everybody sees that this is something that takes practice, and there are going to be many times where you run into issues. You have to stop what you're doing and you have to troubleshoot, and sometimes you have to actually just start all over again. So for this tutorial, there's a step-by-step tutorial located at this link. And what's nice about the R or RStudio Graph Gallery is that there is a lot of good documentation here. And so we're going to start with the most basic violin plot with an analytics visualization package called ggplot2. And you can go through and you can actually read about violin theory here. Try to not get distracted by these ads. R in RStudio is an open source tool. It is free, so don't be surprised by some of these unrelated ads here. Unless, of course, you're looking to refinance a mortgage. I always say that start a tutorial using the same data that's in the tutorial. After you get it down, working with that data, then you can go back and use data, whether it's a data set that you have or a data set that you're going to create, maybe something that's a little more health related. And so what you're looking at here is the actual code. Now this assumes that you've already gone through in Canvas and you've taken a look at how to get used to working in RStudio. So before we get into this, I just want to make sure that you know how to open up RStudio. Depending on where you have it on your computer, you will have already installed R and RStudio. So I am going to look for my RStudio, which is right here. Normally when I do this, if I was trying to look at existing code, I would use two different monitors. That way I could look at the code and copy and paste or retype it. Here, because I'm making a video, I'm going to have to use the same display, so please be aware of that. So here's my screen here, and I have some data that's left in my workspace from the last time I used RStudio. So I'm just going to come over here to this broom and I'm going to clear the objects. And now I want to go back to the violin plot, and I want to make sure that I install all the libraries that I need. Now when I look at this code, anything here that has a £sign first, that's a comment. So this is just telling me I need to be able to use the package ggplot2, and then I need to actually call that library. So I'm going to go in and make sure I install ggplot2 in RStudio. I come over here to my Packages tab. I look to see if I already have it, and if this is the first time that you're using RStudio, you may or may not have it. If you're not sure if you have it or you don't find it, you can always click on Install, and you can always start typing. Now I will say that if you haven't updated packages recently and you run into errors, sometimes it just makes sense to just reinstall the package. You'll get the latest and greatest from the repository, which is out on the internet. And you can see over on the left, R is installing the package. Sometimes it will take a couple of seconds. Sometimes it will take more like 30 seconds or so. And then I'm going to keep going back so that you can see the code. But the next step is to call the library. So I can actually copy and paste both here because a comment is not going to create any kind of issue with the code, but the actual code is just library and ggplot2 inside the parentheses. And so what I can do here is you can see the comment, and if I wanted to, I could have typed library. So I'm just going to back out of this a little bit, and I can type library, and then you can see if I start typing it, it's going to give me some dynamic help where I can just click on it, the opening and closing parentheses will show up, and I could just start typing the name of my library, which is ggplot2, and you can see it pops up and I can just click on it. And from there I can actually highlight this and I can click run, or I can just put my mouse pointer there and click enter. And so you're getting a message here. There's nothing to worry about just because it's in red. If you get an error, it would actually look like an error. So now I'm going to go back to my tutorial, and I'm going to create a data set. So once again, this assumes that you've gone through that introductory chapter and learned about what a data frame is. But basically what you're creating here is just a very small data set. Rather than importing a real data set that maybe is an Excel file or from a database, you're creating a data frame that has columns like A, B, and so on, and the values. So I'm going to highlight everything from the beginning of the comment all the way down to this closing parens here. And again, I could retype it, but it's just as easy to copy and paste it. Just make sure you copy and paste everything. I'm going to highlight everything, or I could just leave my insertion point there. And if you look over here in the upper right hand corner, you can see now my data set, my data frame has been created. It's two variables. One is called name, one is called value. The values in the name column are A, B, C, and so forth, and the values are some type of numeric number. You can just sort of role play a little here and think, you know, maybe these are 4 different groups, maybe these are laboratory results, something like that. So I'm going to go back to my violin graph, and I'm going to copy everything from the comment to the end of the parens. And I'm going to go back to RStudio. And now you can see here we have a new variable that we're calling P. Sometimes it just makes it easy just to call a variable, name it with something easy, and that way you only have to type P instead of a full name. And now I'm going to go back and pick up my last piece of code. And it's actually it stopped a little here because P here, you can see there's nothing here except the comment there. If I come over here, we have the data here. If you're looking to see an actual plot, it will show up down here. So I'm going to go back over here and I am going to now add an additional library, which is dplyr, and I can make sure that it's in my packages here. If it's not, I can click install, but I've used it before, so it should be here. And if I click on it, it's going to do the same thing as installing it. Then I'm going to come back here and I'm just going to make sure that I have both libraries called. Even though I already had ggplot called, I'm going to do it again. It can't hurt anything. And now I'm going to create the data frame again. And since I already have a data frame that looks exactly like this, it's just going to overwrite what I already have. Which is data. And now if I want to plot this, I'm going to copy and paste this into my RStudio. And there we go in plots. Now you can see the violin plots. And so they're called violin plots because they sort of look like a violin. And so you have your 4 different groups here, A, B, C, and D. And really what you're looking at is the distribution of the values here for each of the 4 groups. And so that's it. That's how you create a basic violin graph in RStudio.